we've all seen that dead cockroach on the floor, stepped into a puddle of who knows what, or even just had the internet cut out on us. That all gives a sense that Northview is crumbling beneath our feet. But is it really that bad? Well, for the first time ever, the messenger and its podcast Point of View have teamed up to find out. Alright, so our school.
I feel like it's gone down recently.
Yeah, I kind of agree. There's always been cockroaches, but now like twice, like this year we've had something wrong with the HVAC, and then it's just a bunch of stuff everywhere these days.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think if we want to investigate this further, I think we get a whole bunch of student perspectives because we have the first-hand experience of the school. I feel like that's going to be the most credible source of information.
Do we know anyone who could give that to us maybe?
I heard of this person named Joshua Jung. He's on the student council, so he might be able to give us greater insight.
And he should know a lot too, because student council usually works on the school, and they're a bit more involved. I think he'd be a good person.
So we reached out to Joshua Jung, a member of student council. Here's what he had to say about our school.
So I'd say, obviously, the building is on the smaller side of high schools. If you look at other high schools around the area, like Johns Creek, Chattahoochee, they all have 2 floors. So I feel like oftentimes the school does feel cramped, and it does feel like we are missing some space. So I think maybe an expansion or renovation would honestly be great for the school. They're becoming a little bit old, and obviously if you look at the urinals, there's no dividers in between the urinals, and there's a mirror right in front of the urinals in some of the bathrooms. So I've noticed a lot of the guys don't use the urinals at all. For my overall experience, I wouldn't say I've been greatly affected by any of these problems, but I would say it would be really nice to see some new renovations or changes to the school's building.
We also reached out to another student, Emerson Hamp, a member of Troop 6577, Northview's Thespian chapter, gave her thoughts on the state of the theater.
The wings.
The wings. Could you go into detail on that?
So you have your stage, and the actors, when waiting to go on stage for their cue, they call them the wings. It's 2 separate things. But the issue with the wings is it's really run down. So we have taped X's on the floor where you shouldn't step, because if you step, it makes a bunch of noise. Also, our curtain is shitty, and the lights are not great. Overall, most of the theater department is not well funded, and it's not looking so great.
Do you know why it's not well funded?
I think a lot of our funding goes to sports. I think they just got new helmets and new uniforms, and they take a new field, and we don't get any funding, period, at all. What do you mean should be probably the wings, first of all, because it's really hard to navigate them. The stage itself, the lip and the apron of the stage aren't the greatest. The curtains are not great. So pretty much everything, but I think the priority right now is probably the wings.
How have you been affected by those problems? Have you ever stepped where you're not supposed to, or
yeah.
Something happened?
It's difficult because when performing, you already have a lot of stage anxiety. But when you're focused on where you're not supposed to step, it's adds to that pressure, and if you do step there, it's audible.
What about the lighting?
I don't know much about the lighting because I've never done tech theater, but I do know that for Electra, the play I was in, the lights went out. So when we went to compete for One Act, which is a competition for Georgia, where they have schools from across Georgia compete, we didn't have any lights for One Act.
Personally, I think I was on international night for the Chinese yo-yo performance this year. And dang, the wings in that theater, they are non-existent. You're accelerating the yo-yo, and you have the wall and the curtain right beside you, and it's super uncomfortable to be back there.
I also know I was in orchestra my freshman year, and that stage was really run down just from the backstage part, because quite literally, I know you're talking about the wings, but even on the backstage part, there aren't many places you can go. And I know from my experience that we all had to kind of huddle in the side before our performance because the orchestras ahead of us had to perform, and then it was our turns, and it was very uncomfortable, especially when you have big double basses and cellos.
I helped paint theater sets once, and I remember going backstage, and it's not just the wings, it's backstage. It's really creaky back there, and you have to like kind of watch where you can step. Especially, I didn't have to watch where I stepped because nothing was happening. I was just helping paint. But I'm sure that the actors, they really have to like watch where they step when it comes to not being able to make a noise going backstage. So I just found that really interesting. Something that could be in need of a renovation.
Yeah, and you'd think that, renovations, they're the way to solve the problem, right? But I was doing some research. I have some papers here, I guess. So this is from the board meetings for Fulton County that they have like every month. And I found this January 18th of 2024 that Alpharetta High School is actually getting a renovation for their theater. And the interesting thing about this is that Alpharetta was built in 2004. So we were built in 2002.
Yeah, it's 2 years
and they're getting a renovation for their theater, which I feel our theater really does need those renovations, and they're going to get it before us. So
that's really interesting. I didn't know that other schools could be like in line. You would think there has to be something like really wrong with Alpharetta, right?
Yeah, but our theater is like not that great in the first place either. So
not only the wings, but just like the audio in general. Whenever I go see a show or something in that theater, it can be rough.
And like the seats also are definitely showing their age.
Yeah.
As like an audience member, like they are not comfortable at all.
Yeah. No, it can be rough, but definitely the wings. Few other things, but the seats is a good point.
And we're talking about other renovations. I was covering this board meeting actually. They were talking about replacing the turf for a bunch of schools around here. And I have the printout right here, but basically Alpharetta, they have two phases, and Northview's part of phase 2 apparently, but Alpharetta, Milton, Langston Hughes, Creekside High School, Westlake, these are all schools that are getting them first phase. So like this coming year, since winter 2024. And all of these schools basically have newer buildings than Northview. So Alpharetta 2004, Milton got a new building in 2005, Langston Hughes 2009 actually, Westlake 2008. Cambridge is actually getting new turf too, and that's 2012. So all of these schools, it seems weird to me that we're not getting renovations, and all these schools that are built later than us are getting renovations.
We should like try and find out why, figure that out. Do you know like anyone we can talk to about that?
I can probably ask my APUSH teacher, Sir Brown. He probably has some thoughts on it.
Yeah, there's definitely got to be someone here who like knows more than even a student council member or someone in the theater department.
Okay, let's do that. So, Northview's like gone 20 plus years now without any renovations, right? So, you've been here for a decent bit. Have you seen any signs of like deterioration throughout the school, maybe?
Yeah, obviously there's things that age. From my understanding, Fulton County's policy is every 25 years, a school gets like a complete reno. And one of the things about it is some schools haven't gotten those renovations earlier than others, earlier than their 25-year deadline, because they're falling apart so bad and they're deteriorating so bad. I will say this, for a building that is over 20 years old, and this thing was constructed in 2002, we're in 2024, so we're 22 years in. For that, we're actually in surprisingly good condition. One thing I will say is we have one of the best custodial staffs at any school in Fulton County, and like the reason that we are going to probably make it to that 25-year mark before we get our renovation is because we're actually doing good comparatively. If you had walked in Alpharetta or Chattahoochee a few years ago, you would have been shocked. Like, I get that we like to compare ourselves to Johns Creek, and they were built after us. They're 8 years younger than us, and they were a different design. But like, it's kind of hard to do that or compare us to Milton. But like, again, walk inside those schools and look at what, like, get a closer look than just like that exterior first glimpse, and you'll notice that like, honestly, it's pretty well taken care of. We've had issues, our more recent issues with power weren't our power grid, it was Georgia Power's fault outside of the school. They had a bird fly into a transformer a few years ago. And then that's why we lost power a few weeks ago. Was because when they didn't repair they repaired the transformer, they didn't replace the transformer. And so we have that issues. But yeah, we've had issues with our alarm systems and stuff like that, obviously. But that's to be expected in a building that is this old. And again, I think that's a huge credit to our staff here. Mr. Ashby is wonderful at what he does. He's been here since the beginning of the school. He helped kind of design the school, so like he has a vested interest. Mr. Hunter, our administrator, who is in charge of the physical plant, which means like his job is focusing on the building itself and how everything runs here and the operations of it. Sort of like a COO would be. He again literally helped design the school. Like he built it from the ground up, and so he cares very deeply about the building. I think Alpharetta got a reno a few years back, maybe a year or two ago, or they're about to get one or something like that. And then I know that Hooch got a pretty big one, and they got it like in their like 20th year or something like that, 5 years early. Don't maybe off on those years, but yeah. But again, one of the reasons they got it early is because they like desperately needed it, like for the security and like functionality of the building. But like our building still functions. And yeah, we may not have like all the cool gimmicks of like the big marble floor that when you walk in at Johns Creek, and because that just wasn't something they were putting into schools in 2002. That's something they put into schools in 2009, or what did Johns Creek open in? Somewhere in there, 9 or 10, something like that. Because my first years here, students were still allowed to choose which school they wanted to go to. Our theater is due pretty soon. The next few years, our theater's going to get like a full reno. And they have built onto our school. I mean, since I've been here, we've added, let's see here, the orchestra, no, the band room, sorry. The band room was added. They renoed all of the 400 hall to make it, is it CBE? CBI? Yeah, I know I was going to get that wrong. They renoed like the health student occupations or hosts or whatever those, Mr. Barber's room and stuff like that. They've, we stepped up in here. I have an awesome paint job in this room. I know it's just paint, but it's pretty cool. They've also added the wrestling building, or the wrestling room, I guess is what we're calling it. Like that's thing onto the gym over there. I think I've only set foot in like one time. So they've done some additions here and there to the school. But yeah, I think we are getting up to a new one. And one of the other problems is you notice that like the tiles in here, when you go into like what I like to call 285, that like the roundabout in the center of the school there, like how it's just it's concrete stone, because you can actually see on there where these tiles used to be on there. And it turns so these ones they have to actually like wax them about once a month, maybe once every other month, something like that. And that's a huge endeavor. If you ever walked into a classroom in the morning or something like that and been like, what is that chemical smell? That room recently got waxed. Look at the floors, probably really clean. I'll be honest with you, when we have an issue that like something needs to be handled quickly, obviously, simple things like there's a spill or, someone got sick or something like that, like they answer pretty quickly, but also like, hey, I had this large piece of furniture that broke. Like, it will be gone by the end of the day. Like, it doesn't hang around for a long time. Like, they're really on top of moving things, getting things out. There's a lot of furniture. And also, if you've ever taken an AP exam in the gym, have you ever wondered how 350 desks get in there? Like, the room across the hall from me is where they store them all. They used to store them in this room. And that is an insane amount of work. And they get that done, turned around like that. Like, it's unbelievable. And so they help us out with that. I mean, like, we could not function without them.
Yeah, I have to agree, right? I think Northview doesn't really show its age. Like, I don't think of Northview as being older than all of these other schools that are neighboring us. Mm-hmm. But even then, I feel like there's still stuff that's happening around the school. Like, I guess in January, I was actually working on the story for the Messenger. But, remember when the HVAC unit just blew and we had to go outside for that fire alarm and it was raining?
Yeah. That was the one day I showed up late to school and then I just saw like a train of fire trucks behind me. I was just pulling into the junior lot and I was like, what did I do now?
Yeah, it's an interesting way. I got rained on really, really bad. That's the one day I didn't bring like a hoodie or something to school to like.
Yeah, it's like, I think that this has actually been occurring a lot lately because I remember freshman year, so about 2020, I believe, we also had this another fire drill. Most of you were home for COVID, but I was there in person, and that was also fourth period. I remember distinctly. We also had to go out. Yeah. The HVAC unit blew then also, so the entire hall was in smoke. And then I believe there was another year, I'm pretty sure sophomore year, that we also had to evacuate because the HVAC unit like blew up. So it's just this really continual pattern of the HVAC units, which, if you guys don't know, it's the air conditioning units. I feel like we need to clarify that, but it's just a big pattern of them blowing up, malfunctioning, and it's really just because of the age of the school.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that is one of the glaring issues in a school that honestly is pretty good. Like, I have to agree with what you said, Kevin. Like, we may be like, old in age, but we have a really good custodial staff, and I feel like they take care of our school pretty well. That brings us to the last part of our research. We reached out to Mr. Hunter, an assistant principal who helped build Northview and knows the ins and outs of the structural system.
Robert Hunter, you want me to spell it?
Yeah.
Robert Hunter.
So, so, I guess, so we know that you were here when Northview originally opened, right?
Mhm.
And you participated in a lot of construction, helping out, plan the school. And we also know that Northview was a bit rushed in its construction because Chattahoochee was overflowing. So can you just tell us a bit of what that was like?
It was very rushed. I mean, they fast tracked the building, so it was built a year earlier than it was supposed to. So what they primarily focused on at that time was the building itself. So the outside structures, like the fields and stuff like that, came secondary. So they were done very late in the process. So, for instance, they were able to put lights on the football field, but that first year we opened, we did not have lights on the baseball field or softball field. They waited till after that first year. And when the school was first built, they put an asphalt track down because that was faster than putting a rubberized track. So a lot of things were done very quick to get the school up and running.
Were there any corners cut in the construction of this building itself, which you said was fast-tracked and the amenities became secondhand?
I mean, none that I'm aware of. So.
Okay.
We've heard that, I've heard that, the gym is, flat, whereas in other schools, it's, dug down into, the earth. If that's...
Northview's kind of like a one-off design. There's no other Fulton County school, north or south, that has this design or footprint. A lot of the schools are duplicated over and over. Like Roswell Centennial, Chattahoochee are all the same design. And I'm not sure South County, but I do know that design was replicated a lot. Now, Johns Creek, Milton, and I believe the new Westlake are all identical designs.
And Northview's is different from the rest just because we had to rush the building of the school?
That I don't know. It literally was designed originally to be able to be expanded. Because originally they weren't counting on Johns Creek being built. What the builders were designing this building for was it to be expanded.
Interesting.
Yep.
Speaking of expansion, I mean, clearly, I don't know how much it's expanded. I know there used to be portables.
32.
Yeah, there used to be a lot of them out there, and then that kind of got expanded. But are there any other parts of the facility that have changed significantly over the years?
Yeah, the band building was a new addition. The new art addition, the new black box theater, more recently done. The new PE addition that's been added. Those have all been new structures that have been added to the school.
So what are some parts of the school that you think need updating? Like, for example, the HVAC systems?
Well, some of, like you're saying, some of them, because this is going into year 22, some of those are already on the docket from downtown to be completely done. I know the county is looking at completely over the summer One of the summers coming up, I'm not sure of which one exactly, but they will replace all the HVAC units.
Is there anything else like that sort of thing that you think needs updating?
We're currently, and our board member is involved with this, Mr. Downey, Mr. Martin, and our board member, Ms. McCabe, met yesterday, and they are looking at possible renovations and modifications done to the auditorium. Because stuff like that, anytime you deal with electronics for the sound and the lighting, it gets outdated very quick. But we are looking into possible renovations in there.
We were told today by a staff member that Northview is actually above a lot of the other schools in the area, where we're most likely making it to our 25-year threshold before we get a new set of renovations. However, we've heard that schools like Chattahoochee and Milton were in such dire need of that renovation that they got it early.
Yeah,
So
I'm not aware of that, but what happens with facilities is they periodically, usually, I don't know if it's annually or biannually, kind of all goes together, but they bring in a crew and do a complete needs assessment of the building. Everything from the carpeting on the floor, the painting on the wall, the ceiling tiles, the HVAC systems and stuff, and try to see what condition it's in. Really what the county tries to weigh out is, can we repair something, or do we have to completely replace it? Because at some point there's a threshold of it gets so costly to keep trying to repair stuff. Plus what happens is, as components age, it's tough to get replacement parts.
why do you think Northview has made it further than the two other schools mentioned, Chattahoochee and Milton?
I can't speak for the other schools. I think we've done a really good job of, because I've gone to other schools, and it's how, to put it plainly, it's how its occupants act while they're in the school. You know what I'm saying? A lot of it may be the original construction, but it's how you treat something. It's kind of like you can get a brand new car, and if you don't really take care of it, it can look old really fast. I think as a whole, the faculty, the staff, the students, our custodians have kept the building up really well. Matter of fact, it's right here on my desk. We sit there twice a year. The building gets inspected by environmental services, and this is just a summary of a report that I get. I get, like, me and Mr. Martin get like a 30-something page document where they go over the entire building, and our rating, and it rates like cleanliness and stuff like that, and just general upkeep. Our rating came in at a little bit above 86%, which is extremely high for a high school. When you start to think about putting close to 2,000 people in a building, so
86 is the best you can hope for,
it's the testing has gotten a lot more rigorous. We used to score in the 90s, but the actual way we're assessed now is, if they find a dust bunny in the corner, we get knocked off. You know what I'm saying? So they look for dust up on like ledges high. So it's just different things. I know, like, I'll give you an example. When Chattahoochee was built, they didn't get a stadium like we have. I don't know if you know. Have you ever been to Chattahoochee?
I have, yeah.
They've got just metal. Their stadium isn't like concrete, and so you try and make things equitable, there are ed spec reports that, you know, that state every school should get this bare minimum stuff, you know. But it's tough because it all depends really what was going on at that time. But the county currently is, like I said, a lot of these things, we get what you call these needs assessment, where they bring out a full crew of people, and they not only inspect the inside of the building, they look at the outside facilities too, and try to basically give kind of like their report on it, like where things are, what condition they're in, what's the life expectancy from that point, you know. It to be honest with you, we really are, you know, when you start hitting that 20-year mark, we've done really good with the stuff we have, but like, for instance, our industrial washer and dryers that are used to wash team uniforms had to be replaced. You know, and what it came down to there was they were constantly breaking, and people downtown decided it's more cost efficient just to go ahead and replace them now because, you know, they're going on 22 years old. So why keep throwing money at them? Let's just go ahead and replace them at this point.
Well, I guess there'll be some things on the docket to help Northview in the upcoming years, right?
Yeah, well, unfortunately, we won't be there to see it.
I guess we'll just have to wait and see if it works out.
Yeah, hope so.